Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage your moderator for the next session, Mr. Jeremy Goldman.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to be joined on the stage in a second by two esteemed colleagues that you're going to have a chance to learn a lot from. First off, I think Brian's going to join us. Brian Hanley from Reveal Mobile. He is actually helping agencies and brands essentially use location-based data to better understand their audiences. Brian, welcome. Hey, thanks. And next up, we've got Harry Glaser, the co-founder and CEO of Periscope Data. He is actually helping companies and data teams ingest and analyze and visualize their data. Harry, come on out. Hey, great to have you guys. And I think maybe, Brian, you're going to start off telling us a little bit more about Reveal.
Yep. My name is Brian Hanley. I am the CEO of a company called Reveal Mobile. We are a mobile data platform. We are headquartered in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we've got about 15 employees today. We've, over the last year, since this is the growth conference, I thought I'd show you a little bit of our growth metrics. We've had a little over 400% year-over-year growth in revenue. And we've had some really significant growth in the user base. And the user base for us is mobile devices. As a mobile data platform, we work with thousands of mobile apps where we work with the location data and Bluetooth beacon data, where we have a point of interest database. We match the latitude and longitude coordinates from the mobile devices to a point of interest. And then what we do is we segment that audience based on where they go. If you're a golfer and we see you that you're frequently on a golf course, we label you as as part of the golfing audience. And our key customers are the advertising technology space, the people that do foot traffic attribution. We do retail analytics. We've also started to provide data to hedge funds, and the hedge funds are looking for foot traffic data to make bets on, do I go long or short on a stock based on, is the foot traffic from quarter over quarter, is it going up, is it going down? And so that's what we're growing on the back of is, these different verticals that are waking up to the value of location-based data. And if you've got mobile apps and you've accepted location services, typically that's where Reveal Mobile is getting most of their data. But thank you all for coming out here. Appreciate the time. Again, my name is Brian Hanley, CEO of Reveal Mobile.
All right, Tag, you're it. Harry, you want to tell us a little bit?
Sure. It's great to be here. So I'm Harry Glaser. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Periscope Data. Periscope Data is a platform for data professionals. We help you and your data engineers ingest and store the data. We help your data analysts analyze the data. We help your data scientists write the machine learning and the AI that goes into the models that predict the data. And we help the marketers and finance folks and product managers at your company do the exploration to actually find the answers and the insights in the data. So we've been at this about 6 years now. We're about 1,000 customers headquartered in San Francisco. And these are some of my favorite stats that we have. The usage and the engagement in the product and the fact that data analysts and data scientists use it about 4 or 5 hours a day every single day is one of the proudest things for me. And then obviously the customer retention for us is the other thing for us, that the proof is really in the pudding around how much the customers and the users really love the product. So we're really excited to get started.
Thank you so much. So one thing I wanted to ask both of you is that I feel like more and more people are waking up to the fact that data can be a major competitive advantage. How do you get people to be aware of the value that your product is going to yield them? You know, regardless of the sector, how do you convince people of that?
So, when we started 3 years ago, location data was just really being talked about in a lot of these verticals. So we had to do a lot of education, right? Like, here is where location data is coming from. It's coming from the operating system of the phone, et cetera. So it was all about educating people on what the value was. Well, fast forward 3 years, and instead of having to do education, it's really become, hey, we've got this mobile location data. How can you help us leverage this? So it's been a great experience to see us going from having to completely educate the market to having a bunch of inbound people understanding the value as they come in.
It's really a shocking change from even 2-3 years ago. When we were out pitching seed funding and hiring our very first engineers, we'd say it's a platform for data analysts, it's a platform for data professionals, and you get a lot of head scratching. Okay, data professionals. Who are they? Why do we care? Why do they need a platform? Now you give that one sentence and everyone gets it. So it's a nice environment, and it's become a nice environment. I do think it helps to start with a particular problem. Why is this person talking to you? Why have they come to your website to sign up for the product? Typically, they have a data problem that they don't know how to solve or that they need help solving. It'll be really specific. My marketing channels have become unprofitable. I'm routing cars around the city in an inefficient way. I need help. We need to figure out how to solve that problem. And you start by solving that problem with them, and then you expose them to the broader world of what's possible.
So I want to actually kind of stay on the topic of data and also ask you guys a question if I can. Show of hands, is anybody concerned about the ways in which their data is sometimes used by companies in the world? Anybody? Nobody? Only not too many? Okay, so yeah. Does that ever become a problem for you guys where people become a little bit more cognizant and hesitant, especially living in this post-Cambridge analytical world?
Yeah, this is something we think quite a bit about, right? We make a very horizontal platform. You can use it to do anything you want with the data. And I think we're living in a world where we are now past this, we make a neutral platform, you can use our software however you want and it's not our problem. That's, I think, not the way to think about it. I think the people who are doing the work, the people who are manipulating the data, bear some responsibility for the outcomes that they are creating. And the people who make the platforms that they use also have their share of responsibility. We have our share of responsibility for how the platforms are used. And so I don't have a silver bullet answer here, but I would say this needs to inform in your culture the way that you approach product design, the way that you approach marketing, the way that you approach sales. Is this platform being used in a way that I'm proud of? Are the outcomes that people are creating with this platform the right kinds of outcomes? Is this what we got in this for? And I think that needs to be an ongoing conversation in all these companies.
And because our data is really potentially very sensitive, we're essentially tracking where you're going with a mobile device. We're obligated really as a company to ensure that we've anonymized this data and that it is being used in very general and broad senses, so that I don't know your habits over the day. I'm just segmenting our users into audiences based on points of interest. And there's from the industry perspective and from a consumer perspective, I think there needs to be more transparency in what's happening with data, not just in mobile, but if you're using your grocery store loyalty card, right, and you're thinking, this is great, I'm getting this great discount, well, guess why you're getting that discount, right? It's because that data is being leveraged, right? And so there needs to be more transparency and education in terms of the consumer to even understand all the data that's being exhausted every day by their common habits.
And there's also, I think, a lot of consumer protections that are starting to show up, kind of like GDPR. I mean, we're talking literally the month that it's going to be going into effect for Europe. I mean, do you foresee there being a little bit more in the form of regulation or even awareness from the average company about the pros and cons of using data in certain ways? Are companies going to wind up becoming more astute?
Yeah, for us, two things that have happened that have really led to a lot more understanding of what's happening with data. And first is GDPR. And if you don't know what GDPR is, you should get an understanding of that. And so that is coming into effect. And again, it goes into effect this month. And if you haven't done something about it and you have data that's coming out of Europe, you're probably too late to comply by that date. The other thing that happened, as you mentioned, Facebook, Cambridge Analytica has really brought that to the forefront. And so I think certainly there's going to be some sort of regulation that's going to happen here in the United States. Probably not as far as GDPR has gone, but there will be something that comes out of that.
You know, I must be the only CEO in San Francisco that thinks GDPR is a good thing. We are a notably unregulated industry compared to most industries in the world. And that was sort of appropriate when tech was small, when the outcomes that were being created in the world were generally small. It was just kind of these cool toys or these cool little companies that were being created. The outcomes now affect, the citizens of the United States and the citizens of the world, and in a big way. And it's appropriate that the elected leaders of those citizens would then start to have a say in what is and is not appropriate. I think a similar regulatory system is probably coming to tech in the United States. I think that tech leaders have an opportunity to engage with the system and help shape that. And I think that's a much healthier outcome than the kind of Wild West that we've seen in data and software in particular in the last couple of years.
And then I feel like even pivoting off of data, one thing that ultimately makes a company grow is to have a certain set of core values, right? I mean, how important are values to you and your company, not just having the right kind of business plan, but also saying we're going to hire the right people, we're going to treat them right, we're going to have a certain mission behind what we do?
So having spent 20 years in ad tech, I've seen a lot of companies that have gone the wrong way in terms of the value and the things that they've done. There's a ton of fraud that's in ad tech, and you can see that every day in terms of click fraud and impression-based fraud. So for us, the value is we want to be one of the people shining the light on what's happening with the data. And as a company, we do a lot to ensure that we're privacy compliant in every way that we can, and that we the values that our employees have are reflect that as well.
I think I say this a lot to candidates who are coming in and interviewing at the company. We talk a lot about this, and the people at the company, the way that they treat each other, the way that they work together is the most important thing at the company. And it can be tempting to view it as this trade-off. How much time am I going to spend on how we treat each other and what our value systems are versus getting business outcomes and achieving results, right? But what will happen is you'll discover that if the people are working together the right way, and if you're able to attract superior talent because it's a much more positive environment, you will achieve even greater business outcomes. And also, you don't know you need the values until you really need them. Every business hits bumps in the road. Every business has shocks to the system. And in that moment, do your people come together and take the hill and achieve the outcome even though it's hard? Or do they kind of disperse, and do you get the kind of gossip magnets and the bad behavior? That's when your values get really put to the test, and it's having invested in those up front that turns out to really matter.
Right. I mean, actually, I would say, speaking of investment in another way, one thing that's always interesting to me whenever I'm talking to CEOs is balancing, well, you've got to manage your people, but you also need to keep the lights on. You have to figure out how much money you're going to need to get to that next level of success, as a business, right?
Yeah, but managing your people is keeping the lights on. You're not actually at least past one or two or three people. You're not writing the code. You're not selling the deal. You're not doing the marketing, and you're definitely not in the basement with the circuit breakers, right? Or at least ideally not. And so if you are managing your people well, then they will find creative ways to get the outcome, and they will find creative ways to keep the lights on if that's what's necessary. And if you're not, then you're going to have trouble raising that next round, and you're going to have trouble, achieving that next business outcome. And again, that's where the rubber really meets the road with the values and the management system.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's important is, for a 15-person company like us, having people with the right cultural fit is really important. And you seem to see people that don't share those values, they sort of self-select their way out of the company. which I think is probably in the long run healthy, but that helps you attain the outcomes that you're looking for.
So speaking about in terms of like what you're looking for, and also actually in terms of what you've done to grow to get to the points that you're at right now, what's something that you've even learned over the last few years in terms of managing your companies to the points that they're at?
I think for us, the old adage, what got you here will not get you there, has been a big one where, what gets you from $0 to $1 million is not the same as what gets you from $1 million to $10 million, is not the same as what gets you from $10 million to $100 million. It's funny, I was doing a reference call with a pretty well-known CEO because we're hiring an executive who used to work at that company. And I asked him in the last minutes of the call for a bit of advice. And he gave me that advice. We were about $1 million company at the time. And he's like, what gets you from 1 million to 10 million won't get you from 10 million to 100 million. And I'm thinking, cool, I'm at 1 million, I'm going to file that away, thanks very much. And it turned out to be really prescient, right? You need to be thinking strategically about what the company looks like at the next stage of growth, not just thinking tactically about juicing the particular tactic in front of you. I think we, in all transparency, learned that lesson the hard way, but it did make us a stronger company when we got through it.
Yeah, and we're going through that transition right now. We're now sort of in the second wave. The first wave for us, getting to that first $1 million, was all about content marketing, right? Putting your brand out there and getting people to come inbound. And now we really are starting to transition to more of a sales-focused company where we have people, on the sales side that are going out and trying to go out and bring the leads in themselves. And we also are sort of eating our own dog food, like figuring out who our key audience is from a location perspective, like what's the right conference to reach agencies, or what's the right conference for us to reach app publishers, and then using our own location data to go reach them on LinkedIn or social media. So we've really had to learn as we grow, and I feel for our company in sort of that second stage.
So if there's kind of one very quick 30-second bit of advice you guys could each offer up companies looking to grow between Collision this year and Collision next year, what would it be?
Well, from a true startup perspective, I can't tell you how much content marketing is important. Whether it's a podcast or whether it's webinars or videos or data or whatever you can do to have your brand and your name out on the web for as little money as you possibly can. That's my advice when you're early on.
There's a Vinod Khosla quote. It's the people you build is the company you build, or the people you create are the company you create. That's really, really incredibly true. If you could do only one thing really well, it's hire really well. And then if you have people who are not working out, you do need to go ahead and take action there. Having the right group of people in the house, in the building, is really the most important thing.
And thank you guys so much. I wish we could go on for a lot longer, but this is great. Really appreciate it. Thank you.